Hi, my name is Jim Townsend, and I'm the executive director of Houston Cinema Arts Society. Our annual film festival features CineSpace, an 8-year collaboration that we have with NASA. CineSpace is a really, really special program because it means that people from all over the world send us short films that they make using a percentage of NASA archival footage. And they use this NASA archival footage to tell all kinds of stories. Some of them documentary, some of them experimental, some animated, some music video. And each one of them really captures something special and magical about how space and space exploration informs us as people and inspires us. But we're very, very lucky today to be able to interview two of the creative forces behind one of the coolest CineSpace films we've seen, Unbound. And that's the filmmaker Sarah Moshman and the star of the film, Lauren Lapkus, who are with us today.
Hi.
Here we are.
Like magic.
Amazing.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much for submitting to CineSpace and sharing your wonderful film. And before we get into the film, I'd love for you both to introduce yourselves. And Sarah, how about you go first?
Sure. I'm Sarah Moshman. I'm the director of this wonderful short film, Unbound. I'm also a documentary filmmaker, just in general, a director, producer, and all of the work that I do centers around representation of women on screen and showcasing strong female role models. So honored to be here.
And I'm Lauren Lapkus. I'm an actor and comedian. And, I just Google me if you don't know. I can't get into this. This is like...
Not even.
Because
I'll do it. Jurassic World, Black, Between Two Ferns, Big Bang Theory, animated series.
It's more uncomfortable to say yourself.
I've known this person since I was 13 years old. And
that's the headline here.
That's the headline. Every project, I weep with joy when I hear about her success.
That's how I feel about you. So this has been so amazing to do this together. It's like truly, we've been friends since 6th grade. So it's really cool.
The year 2000.
Yeah, specifically.
Well, before that, 1999, because we spent Y2K together.
We did. Just making sure that the computers didn't explode.
We did not.
Well, I'm not doing any of the math to figure out how old everybody is.
Please don't.
And so you've been friends since 6th grade.
Yeah.
In Evanston, Illinois. Yes.
So you're two kids in the suburbs of Chicago, just making movies together immediately right out of middle school?
We weren't really making, okay, here's the deal, Jim.
There is one film.
I got a video camera when I was 16, a Sony Hi8 tape video camera, because we are 900 years old.
Yeah.
We would make music videos together on the weekends, and I have those tapes somewhere in that garage. Watch out. But none of them were watching. But we just had so much fun. The headline here is that Lauren always wanted to be an actress, and I always wanted to be a director. In fact, when I was raising money to make Unbound about a year ago, I found our old notebook from middle school that we would pass in the hallways, pre-text messages. And we wrote to each other, mostly about boys. Let's be very clear. It was mostly about boys.
Yeah.
But also we had the audacity to ask each other these very deep questions and so
there were some huge questions in there, honestly.
What do you think about life? And then it'd be where do you see yourself in 10 to 15 years? And sure enough, we found this passage a year ago that said that she wanted to be an actress in Hollywood. Whoa. And I wanted to be a director. So this has always been the dream. Yeah.
It's really cool.
Well, that's incredible. I had lots of memories of big dreams that friends of mine had in middle school, and none of them paid off.
Most people want to be astronauts when they grow up. Let's be honest.
Nobody from my junior high is you guys are making it. And really, really, I've got to say, understood the assignment when it comes to the CineSpace short film that you did.
Apparently it all fell together. I wish I had known about the contest before we made the film, but
that's what's so amazing is that it fits the criteria so perfectly.
You had no idea that you were getting something ready for CineSpace when you made it?
No, not at all. Michelle Noland, who was our behind the scenes fabulous videographer, and I've worked with her, she just sent it to me after we finished it, and it was under 10 minutes, check. NASA archival imagery, 10% about that, yes, check. Yeah. So in Unbound, we use archival footage of the real astronaut, Dr. Anna Lee Fisher, which the film is about, the first mother to go into space. And so that was a really fun part of the process, was incorporating some of that real archival footage, because I, of course, didn't have the budget to put, and Lauren didn't want to go underwater, of course.
I'm good. It's okay.
It was like, I'm not doing it. But we have found like a great shot of Anna like being submerged in the tank, and then kind of blended the two together. And in that section of Unbound, we shot on Super 8 film as well to try to match the NASA archival footage. So this was all just a delicious, happy accident that the film fit into the criteria of this fabulous festival. So
it's so cool.
We're delighted. Actually seamless. I didn't even realize. I mean, I saw a behind the scenes thing of you holding a Super 8 camera.
Oh, yeah.
That's when I realized you really did that. I mean, that was really
cool. Fabienne Hasepian, our fantastic cinematographer, suggested that to kind of blend together the archival, and the film is set in 1983, 84. So we wanted it to be as, visually, seamless with the time period. So yeah, that was really fun. And so she had a Super 8, I had a Super 8. We were just like filming Lauren running around.
That was really cool.
Well, it worked out really great, and the film is phenomenal. And so I'm really excited to learn more about how the idea came to you, and why it was important for you to tell the story.
Yeah, so I'm a mom of 2 kids. Lauren is a mother as well. She can talk about that. But I really was craving telling more stories about motherhood, and I had come from the documentary space. I still work in documentary, and wanted to bridge the gap into narrative filmmaking. And so it felt like, well, why don't I tell a story that's based on a true story? That seems like an easy kind of transition. And so I took a walk with my wonderful friend Chrissy Moore, who's the writer of Unbound, and expressed kind of this desire to make a short film. And she said, well, have you heard about the first mother to go into space? And I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And so Chrissy knew the story of Anna Fisher, and she very quickly wrote the first draft of Unbound and sent it to me. And then I immediately contacted Lauren, who was like just about to have a baby. And he was like, hi, do you want to do this? And she's like, hold on. I had a baby real quick, but then you can take it from here. But I sent her the script, and it was like, do you want to do it? So it was.
Yeah. And I mean, first of all, I've always wanted to work with Sarah because we're such old friends, and her work is so amazing. And because she always does documentaries, there hasn't been an opportunity for us to do something together. So this was so exciting when she brought this to me. And the script really touched me because I, had just had a baby. My baby was 4 months old, I think, when we did the movie. So she's, that the experience that Anna is going through, leaving her daughter to go into space, which is like really a big work trip, It's really
the biggest.
It's beyond. And so I really connected with the material. My job takes me to other places, and I have to leave my baby, and it's very different than going to space, but it's the same feeling of like you're leaving for work, and that's a hard thing to do. And learning about Anna, I was so amazed just by her story that she went back to work a few days after giving birth.
Yeah.
I mean, something I could not fathom, having had that experience of giving birth. It's truly like it took me out for a while. So I'm amazed by her. I think she's incredible.
She was in training, to become.
Yeah, right. Like she knew she was going to do this. And so it's a really wild story. It was really cool to get to tell it.
Wonderful. So you also worked with your husband in this role.
I did. Yes. My husband, Mike Castle, plays my husband, Bill Fisher, in the movie, which is really fun. And so it's fun to get to work together. We met working together on a show. So this was, I think, one of our first times since then working together again. So
and since having the baby too, it's like fun to see both be able to hang out without.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah. That was kind of crazy. But yeah, it was really neat to get to do that with him.
Well, it's a great cast all around. I mean, not just in the principals, but really, really phenomenal casting. I mean, for the CineSpace videos, like I said, they come from all over the world, and they're across a bunch of different genres. So we don't normally see great talent like yourselves in these roles. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the casting process and what was a priority for you as you were doing that.
I feel really lucky that each of the actors really kind of came very organically. Of course, Lauren was the first, to secure, and then it was like easy to ask Mike, to be.
I live with him, so I could kind of.
Yeah, it was
casual.
You just have a baby, whatever. But then Casey Graff is our producer of Unbound, and so we wanted to incorporate him into the film, and he did such a fantastic job as Jim and the scenes walking with Lauren.
He's so funny.
And then Gary Anthony Williams is someone that does a lot of animated work and typically works in comedy, a lot like Lauren. And it was really fun to cast someone like him kind of against the role, like to have him play a more dramatic role. It was so phenomenal, and we had so many great discussions leading up to the shoot. Everyone just worked so well together. And then Julissa Gonzalez as well. She was a friend of our costume designer and co-producer Alice Walker. And she was so fun to have on set as well. This shoot was only 3 days, and I was like, can we just do 20 more? Let's go.
I know, it was really fun.
Like we just had the best time on set. So we shot this in December 2021 in like Oxnard and Camarillo, California, in 2 different airports.
Wow. So really a phenomenal short film. Has there been a discussion about maybe extending it into a feature? I mean, there's a lot more to tell here.
We would love to. Yeah, absolutely. We'll see.
I'll be the first in the audience to
Thank you.
to come check it out. So tell me about just recreating NASA in the 80s and how you were able to pull that off.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it was a tall order for sure. But also just really fun we were sort of freed from wanting it to be so perfectly time period accurate. We just wanted to get the big details right. Like the spacesuit, for example. We had a lot of fun going to Global Effects here in California and trying on the closest replica to the suit that Anna actually wore. So we tried to make everything as like historically accurate as possible. And production design was a huge part of that. And Brett Hatcher, our production designer, did such a phenomenal job, dressing the space. So we shot at 2 different airports, one in Oxnard, which was more time period accurate in terms of the hangar itself. It was built before the 80s. And then in Camarillo, we were at a very modern airport, but that really served as like the inside for, the Kennedy Space Center interiors. So that was really cool to have a little bit of balance of like modern, but also time period specific, which we thought NASA was probably ahead of its time in terms of architecture and design in the 80s. I would say, it was a total like a lovely progression, kind of figuring out those pieces. It's definitely hard to make it be 1983 and 84 with a small budget, but we also shot with the Arri Alexa camera on anamorphic lenses, and our cinematographer did such a phenomenal job, really like making the shots very epic and large in scope. We really wanted to feel a big space film, even on a small budget as well.
Yeah, I have to say, just as an actor, I wasn't privy to all of the conversations going on. So coming into the shoot, I was really impressed by how much you all were able to pull off with the small budget, because it felt grand. And I think it turned out that way, just the way that visually, aesthetically, it turned out really well. It was pretty impressive. So, yeah. So I'll just give you a compliment.
So
how was it for you, Lauren, wearing the spacesuit?
Well, it did make me laugh sometimes, because I am primarily a comedian. And so I do end up in dramatic roles from time to time. And so I'm totally happy to do that. And I love it, but it's different for me. So like putting on the spacesuit, I do have the desire to make it a joke.
She did twerk in the spacesuit.
Twerk in the spacesuit. But it was also just really cool, like getting to feel all the pieces of it and all the layers and all the things that they really wear. It was as accurate as we could be. And I think that was really special. There was something about like putting on that helmet where it's like, whoa, this is just
emotional.
Like, it's a surreal sort of experience.
And then we didn't have the budget to really like go into space. It's a space movie without going into space. So our cheat for that is at the very end, we reflect the shuttle in her helmet. And so that's an archival image of the real shuttle, the Discovery shuttle, but we put it in the helmet as if she's walking off to get on the shuttle. So we did everything we could to sort of like get around it. Like in the press conference scene, it's all one shot, very slowly pushing in to Lauren, answering all these questions. She's being inundated with all these sexist questions about being a mother. There was no one there, but we didn't have a press conference filled with reporters. We didn't have 100 extras. It was also the height of Omicron and COVID and all of that. And low budget again. So we just found creative ways to make it seem larger in scope and seem more full than it actually was.
And seamless with the archival footage. I mean, that must have been some kind of a challenge, so you're matching materials from different eras, and sometimes they can cover the gap, but sometimes it could probably create some stressful moments.
It's inspiring to look on these archival sites and nasa.gov and Pond 5, all these places, and look up Anna Fisher, but also just look up from the time period. Like we pulled a lot of inspiration images from different archival videos, like what did the Space Center look like at that time? What was everyone wearing? Like what was everyone's hair like?
Right.
Like what was the color palette? Like we really tried to match the tone of the archival, not just the Anna Fisher videos, which were all great, but also just other videos from that time period. Because remember, 1978 was the first astronaut class with any women at all. So this was a really interesting time, and before the Challenger exploded. So what an interesting moment in time for women, especially for a mother going into space. That was really cool.
Absolutely. Lauren, you, as you said, you're known largely for these hilarious comedy roles. How was it for you stepping into this one? I can't remember if we've ever seen you play a mother before. Is this the first time?
Yeah, you know, I have on a couple random little parts, but yeah, this was my first time doing it since having a baby, which is definitely, for me, was a different experience. It was emotional. I think like there's parts of the script where Anna is doing a video for her daughter to watch in the event that she doesn't survive, which makes me want to cry right now. And it's like, it's such a huge thing to be doing, to make this video and saying all the things you want to say. And her daughter was just born, and, you know, she's just a little baby. And so it's really heavy. And I was glad for myself as an actor that I had the experience of being a mother, so that I could tap into that more easily, because I don't tend to do drama as much. So, yeah, I didn't have to use a tear stick, so I think that was pretty cool.
You weren't pinching yourself.
Yeah.
No, but in that scene, it was so beautiful, because like there's a lot of people around on set, you know, everyone is so respectful and intimate. But I just remember in that same moment, like Lauren and I are like, we had a beautiful script, of course, that Chrissy wrote, but even just Lauren and I being like, what would we say? You know, what would we say as mothers to our daughters in this moment? And it was like a little bit of riffing, like, I would say that you know, it's been the greatest honor of my life to be your mother, you know, it's the greatest honor of my life to be an astronaut, which it is. It was really like we brought that feeling of motherhood into it. And even in the scene where Lauren, it's very, very short scene, she picks up the phone and calls home and says she's still awake. You know, like that's directly from my life. I can't tell you how many times I've called my husband and been like, are they still awake? No, I missed it. You know, just like missing bedtime is such a terrible feeling when you didn't see your kids all day. So we tried to infuse our own experiences of motherhood into the story. And like, you know, of course we laugh that like, we're never going to go to space, of course, and the stakes aren't nearly as high in our working lives. But the film is really about that intersection of motherhood and ambition. And I think so many working moms feel that every single day, like wanting to do it all and have this amazing career and push ourselves and dream big, but also want to show up for our family. And is there a world in which those two things can coexist? Some days, yes. Most days, no. You know, most days you feel crappy at one or crappy at the other or crappy at both. So that's really part of what we're exploring here. And it was really cool to see us bring in our motherhood experiences to the story.
And a really, really powerful moment too, especially in that sort of video message, especially for those of us who remember the Challenger disaster, which was really close in time to the time period you're talking about, 86, right?
86, and this was 84. So yeah, very close. Yeah.
Really heavy. So I'm wondering then, speaking of Anna Lee Fisher, did you connect with her about what this experience was like, and how did that go?
Yes. Yeah. So I had a friend in my mom's group that had interviewed Anna Fisher for a documentary series, and she connected the dots. And so I've spoken to Anna a couple of times on Zoom, and we email all the time, and she's so excited about the film and just really honored that we chose to tell her story. I'm sure it's kind of weird when someone reinterprets your life in dramatic fashion. But no, overall, I think she's just kind of like, wow, thank you for taking the time to do this. And she really likes the film, and especially with this specific competition, you know, run by NASA and CineSpace, she's really honored to be a part of it. So yeah.
How was that for you, Lauren? I mean, you're playing somebody who's still alive.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't speak to her before, and I think in some ways that just simplified the process. We had such a short amount of time, and we're just kind of, you know, telling the story as opposed to reenacting her life or you know, impersonating her in any way. So I mean, it was cool though, just knowing that it really happened. I think just gives it such weight. I mean, it's incredible thinking about these moments as an actor, that you're having these moments where, you know, these are, you know, guesses as to what might have happened in these conversations that she was having leading up to this. And that's so intense. I mean, just thinking about, she was and continues to be such a strong person, and like just clearly knows herself so well to be able to go, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, and, you know, and execute it, which is incredible. I really admire her. Hopefully one day we'll get to connect.
And why aren't we hearing more of these stories? You know, it's like, why don't we all know the story of Dr. Anna Fisher? And that's what drives me as a filmmaker, is like, hearing this and thinking, wait, what? How do we not
I
know
know,
about
it's
this?
pretty crazy that that's not like one of the main ones that you hear.
Right.
You know? Like,
I mean, every astronaut's journey is so inspiring. There's so few
yeah,
of them in the world, but yeah, that was a big part of it, is wanting to tell these stories, and also that not much has changed, sadly. I mean, in the press conference,
totally.
we, the line is, who's watching your 1-year-old, right? And then
Right.
she says, well, her father is. I have to tell you, Jim, that exact conversation happened to me on a plane not 2 weeks ago.
My friend just had this happen for a job interview. When she was interviewing, and the person hiring her asked who would watch her child, and she's like, "Do you think I don't have a plan in place? Like,
Don't worry, my kids are okay. Yeah.
do you want to know who's walking the dog? Like, is this, you just want to know how my life is working out, or like what?
You're just concerned about me in every way, or only as a mother?
Like, what happened to you, Sarah, on the plane?
Oh, I was speaking to my lovely seatmate to my right, this older guy, and then this woman to my left heard me talking about how I had kids, and she was like, oh, do you travel a lot for work? And I was like, yeah, I mean, don't you miss your kids? And I was just like, ugh. And that really bothered me too. It's like, of course I do, but it kind of
Don't you? It's like,
what
you're
is
supposed to say, do you travel a lot for work? I really miss my kids. Okay, good. I'm glad you said that. Now, do you travel a lot for work? Okay.
Who's watching your kids? As if like there couldn't possibly be another person.
Yeah.
Equation. I was like, their dad. Like, it just was so frustrating, and it's just wanting to bust through those stereotypes. Like, those are the hills we have to climb every single day as working parents. I'm proud of the work that I do. I've always wanted to be a filmmaker. I love what I do. I also love my kids. Am I allowed to love both?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it.
And can you just talk about one without talking about the other? I mean, I think it's like, yeah.
So everything Anna went through, it's only intensified, it feels like now. I remember talking to Dr. Fisher about how she was so glad that social media didn't exist at this time.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine, the judgment in 1984 of a working mom, going to space? And today it would be like, how dare you leave your kid, all that. So
yeah,
I feel like we do have so much in common with her, even in 1984. It still exists today. So yeah.
Totally.
Then again, nothing could get you canceled in the 80s. It seems like
balanced. Yeah.
I had this happen too. I mean, I was in a similar position where I was an aspiring filmmaker myself in the early aughts when I was a stay-at-home dad. My wife had like a normal grown-up job, so it's like, okay, well, if you're just going from pitch meeting to pitch meeting, you can take care of the babies. And so I was a stay-at-home dad, and it was a very similar thing. It was kind of like, oh, how nice of you to give your wife a break today. Like, are you kidding me? Don't you give me a break?
You're babysitting.
Launch me into space.
Oh
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what is it that you would like for viewers to get from Unbound? And why is this an important story for other people? I mean, I think you said this is a story of women and ambition, and how you
yeah, sure. I mean, on a basic level, yes, the intersection of motherhood and ambition, kind of redefining what it can mean to be a mother, to be a working mother, certainly to inspire the next generation of women in STEM careers, science, technology, engineering, and math. That's so unbelievably important that we change the numbers, not only in film, but also in the real world, and getting more women in science. We just want people to be inspired and to hear this story that they've never heard before, most likely, and probably take some inspiration from it and bring that into their own lives. Yeah.
So we have people who will be watching this video who might not be as familiar with your work. Sarah, is there anything that you want to plug, or anything that you want people to go take a look at that explores similar themes, perhaps?
Yeah, if you want to see more of my work, you can go to sarahmoshman.com, SarahMoshman.com, or I'm on Instagram at Sarah Moshman. I've got 3 feature-length documentaries all about.
And they're really good.
Women, thank you. And I hope to make more narrative films in the future, many more films in any form. I would love to continue on down the path. So keep up with me on Instagram and on my website.
And what are you both working on now?
I just did an indie movie this summer it's a postpartum depression comedy, actually. So it kind of connects to this a little bit in that I play a mother again. But I'm really excited about that. And I think that's all I can mention at the moment, but it's called Another Happy Day, and you can follow along with them on Instagram and me as we're trying to get into festivals and do all this fun stuff. So I'm very excited about that.
Very much looking forward to that. Any other cool projects on the horizon, Sarah?
Yeah, for me, so I have a feature-length documentary called Losing Sight of Shore. It's about 4 women that rowed a boat across the entire Pacific Ocean. It's this unbelievable adventure story.
Rowed. I mean, you really need to get that, you know, image.
The row. It's not a sail. It's not a motor.
Small boat. Yeah.
Lauren's like, to be clear, they rowed.
Because that's amazing.
From where to where?
From San Francisco to Australia.
Oh,
over 8,000 miles.
Yeah.
They're the first team of 4 to ever do it. It was on Netflix worldwide for 3 years. It's been this unbelievable journey. I can go on and on. But the reason I mention it, even though it's completed, is because I'm working on turning that into a fiction film. So we're working on the script right now and hoping to, in the future, create that. That's kind of the big dream. As well as, you know, I wrote a short and applied for the AFI directing workshop for women. So I'm crossing all my fingers that I get into that and continue to make more narrative films. So yeah.
I love it. Well, having worked in so many different media and formats, I mean, you've got narrative and documentary under your belt. Any advice for aspiring filmmakers about the differences between those things? Like, how does one make a short narrative film when one is so used to making a documentary and longer formats?
Yeah, I mean, they're just, to me, it's all under the umbrella of storytelling. I don't try to get too caught up in like how they're so different. For documentary, it's exciting because you can just pick up the camera, get started. If I had a compelling character to follow, I could pick up my iPhone and get going and figure it out and really just do it on my own. Whereas in narrative, you really need actors like Lauren, you need sets and costumes and locations. Yeah, I would just say, create the projects that mean a lot to you. You know, that's really going to drive you in those moments where you want to give up and you get overwhelmed by fundraising, which is the hardest part. But I try to just encourage filmmakers to really lean into their voice and really fight to tell the stories that mean something to you, because that will get you through the hard times. So if it's meaningful to you and you have to tell that story in any form, documentary, narrative, music video, you know, experimental, whatever that looks like for you, then tell it, because the phone's just never going to ring with that perfect opportunity. You really have to go out there and show people what you're made of and what you can do. And hopefully then you'll start to get noticed and hired, and fundraising can be a little bit easier over time. We're hoping that's true.
I'm always hoping that.
Your own path. Yeah. And define success for yourself. Otherwise it's too lonely getting caught up in like rejection and success definitions from other people.
Yeah, I think that's really true just in the entertainment industry in general. Just like define success for yourself, not basing it on what everyone else is expecting of you or what you have, you know, achievements you're waiting for other people to give you and allow for you to do. I'm so impressed by Sarah, because she really has done that over and over again. And I'm blown away, because I think what you're talking about, not giving up, is so important, because it's so easy to want to just go like, let's just bail because this has gotten a little complicated. This is getting crazy, or there's no money, or there's whatever. And it's like, you've been able to pull off multiple documentaries that are like with that are also beautiful to look at. It's not just, you know, even an amazing story. It's like you've made them really beautiful. So I think that's a huge challenge, and I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. The feeling is so mutual. Thank you.
Well, I'm just really excited for this film and really excited to have the opportunity to speak to both of you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Participating in the Houston Cinema Arts Festival. We love it.
Yay.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody.
Thank you. That was fun. Thanks so much, Jim.